board meeting of Thursday, August 14th, 2014. First, we're going to have introductions. I'm Carl Kennedy. I'm the president of the GTCA.
I'm Judith Mara, general manager.
Barbara Dragstaff, director.
Joe Purcell, director.
Soheila Poplar, director.
Matthew Urbaniak, director at large.
Nancy Engren, director.
Member Securities Director at Large. Richard Miller, Director, Tower 1.
Art Sagi, Director, Tower 3.
The first item of business tonight is a statement by the general manager.
Good evening. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to address some stories about me that have been circulating here at the Galaxy. About 10 years ago, my fiancée, Mickey Brown, was a very successful lawyer from New Jersey and the former president and CEO of Foxwood Casinos, was the chairman of the board of the Parkway Condominiums Association in Niagara Falls. He was also a high-profile organized crime prosecutor and the first casino regulator in Atlantic City. As part of a very nasty fight over the control of the Parkway, lies were fabricated about me. Mickey and others on the Parkway board lost their seats. I was terminated and some serious but false charges were brought against me. Not one of these charges withstood any scrutiny. In fact, the main witness against me was a convicted criminal and drug dealer who failed the polygraph test when questioned about me. He lied and was sent to jail. I, on the other hand, passed my polygraph with flying colors. There was absolutely no basis to the 8 serious charges brought against me. However, in order to walk from what became a costly and long ordeal, I settled. I pled to a single small misdemeanor charge, which was unauthorized use of a credit card. This was just that I used it without formal board approval, which was authorization from a new board that had been there for 1 day. The Parkway's former accountant confirmed that I did not use the Parkway's credit card to benefit myself at all. As part of the plea, I also paid monies even though I had not misappropriated any funds. After the unfortunate events at the Parkway were brought to the Galaxy's attention, I have been offered the opportunity to manage another property. But I chose to stay and fight for what I believe is right, also because I never did anything wrong, either there or here. I accurately completed my employment application with respect to my job here at the Galaxy and passed a thorough background check that revealed no record of ever having any wrongness doing it. I was brought into a very challenging environment here at the Galaxy, but I preserved with a single objective: ensuring that the owners get their fair and honest money's worth for each and every dollar the association spends, and to ensure that all potential existing revenue sources are identified and maximized. To date, I've been working on various projects here at the Galaxy. Some of them are an energy grant for almost $1 million, a post-Sandy claim in excess of $10 million. I've sold the roof rental antenna for excess of $565,000, an insurance claim upwards of $800,000, as well as cost savings on various vendor contracts for over $350,000. I would continue to work here at the Galaxy diligently to improve the quality of life and to protect the investment of every Galaxy owner. Thank you.
Now we're going to start on the regular order of business. Next order of business is the resident speaker. The format for this has changed as of last week. Each speaker now has 7 minutes to address the board. I will give him a warning sign after 6 minutes, 30 seconds, so he can terminate his or her speech. After that, the speaker will sit down, and each of the board members will have 2 minutes to respond. This is not questions or a dialogue, this is all responses. I'm going to start with a selection of a board member to start with, and go around the table either counterclockwise or clockwise. And you will have 2 minutes each speaker if they want to speak, and we'll go on to the next speaker. The first speaker I have on the list is Mr. Barmock. If you could please come up, and in that meantime, Barbara, you have this speaker. We're going to not, if you just get yourself comfortable. We're not going to read the disclaimer tonight. Each board member has signed a statement. Excuse me, each speaker has signed a statement of what they cannot say at these meetings. Are you comfortable?
Can you guys hear me?
If you could please start.
All right, my name is Bob Barmack. I'm in Tower 1, been a resident here, visiting since 91, living here since 93. And in this area from Hoboken all the way up to Fort Lee since 1981. So just looking at the climate around this region that's called the the Golden Coast now, it's the amount of backdoor dealings and the corruption is just huge. And you just have to, this is all public records, I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know. There's so much that kind of just reeks of conflict of interest or potential for conflict of interest. And the last 22 years of the Galaxy, I don't think there's been anything that I'm aware of that's gone smooth without either overtly or covertly or just smelling like the conflict of interest. And bringing that to the Apple view, because that's kind of like we all know it. I mean, the appointment of new people, employees of the Galaxy, the firing of the old ones, the driveway, the bricks, the sidewalk, the extensions, the mall, I mean, you name it, right? So I fully understand that this is a paycheck for a lot of people, or I should say great paycheck for a lot of people. Well, fine. You pay a price for living and doing what you want to do. I need this place for convenience. I'm not looking at the property values because this place has just been tanking when everyone around has just kind of been going up. But specifically about Appleview, again, a short-sighted board in the past chose not to purchase that piece of land that has a 36-inch gas pipe supplying 50% of the gas to Manhattan that goes through it. Now, all the variances they want to get with the construction, the crack can occur now, it could occur and blows up in about, let's say 10 years from now, 5 years from now. So I challenge anyone who's seen this report, either challenge it on a factual basis, or let's look at what's going on. I dare anyone here to go to your apartment tonight, pull the gas line from the back of your stove and light it on fire. I challenge you, I dare you. Go do that. And imagine something about 800,000, a million times stronger than that. That's that pipe right there. Okay? So I'm not saying malice, incompetence, corruption, no matter what, or if it's just a pure accident. That's a huge price to pay. And it's costing us 50 cents a day to buy insurance against that, or as much insurance as we can. That, some esteemed members want to put it up for vote. I'm all for red, white, and blue, and voting rights and all of that. But if we're going to do that, there's some other huge expenses that we just mentioned that were never put up to vote. But this red, white, and blue, and putting this up for vote has just come up.
Yeah.
And just the potential connections, the potential for the conflict of interest, it's just not smelling right. And again, this place, my property value goes to zero, that's what I'm expecting. But I don't want to be incinerated when it goes to zero. That's all I'm asking, right? So, how much time do I have?
We have another 3.5 minutes.
Okay, great. So based on that, when I look around and I look at it's coming up for vote, some of the things empirically I can look at, there's a park that's built across the street. How much did that going to cost us? Or did cost us? Building that, they damaged the water pipe. Okay? That's right in that front yard. Going to our backyard, they started digging and they just missed the gas line and they hit a water pipe. Okay? So these are two examples right around us. So in any type of construction, there's a huge amount of risk. And the person who's building that piece of property is looking at it as just pure profit. And they can distribute that profit to get what they need to get the zoning to build that place. They're not looking at insurance, they're not looking at what happens to residents. If something goes wrong, the closest, according to this, that the fireman can come to us is Stonehenge. I challenge anyone to run there and back when there's about, a quarter mile of gas burning around you. It just doesn't even pass the smell test. It really doesn't. I mean, we're not even talking common sense here. We're just talking about basic sense, right? I'm not going to get on an airplane when the pilot is drunk, the landing gear doesn't work, and it's out of gas. That's about the equivalent. If something goes wrong, it's going to go terribly wrong. And Tedesco is not going to pay a dime, because look at their corporate structure, and look at how many layers of embedded corporations that they have, and legally they're protected. They're shell games. Look at how much other companies have paid for these situations. Not much. And if they have to pay a lot, what do? Declare bankruptcy and walk away. There is Superfund sites within 2 miles of here. That building over there, all those Jacobs Ferry, is built on toxic land. It's how many times are we going to make these types of decisions? And I'm all good for, hey, let's pick a color for the elevator. Because whether it's fuchsia, pink, or brown, it's not going to affect about 20,000 people around it. That could go up in flames. What do you think? 100 people. It's again, it just doesn't pass the smell test. So on that, I just either challenge this factually or get rid of the high or the perceived conflict of interest, or vote to keep it. It's very, very small amount of insurance. Just another back-of-the-envelope calculations. I think there's about 50 units in this building, 1,000. That are not paying their maintenance. That's 50 grand a month, minimum, right? Then, Jesus Christ.
I think Monica was doing just fine.
Just collecting 12.5% of the back due maintenance bill will pay for it. And just to put that in perspective again, since 1991 to now, every year when those bills aren't paid, we pay. And I've paid that every year. And that was never off the road.
30 seconds.
The board has never done anything substantial to collect those monies. And those people come and go as they please. And what do we get to want to be voted on is that gas money. I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense.
How many units? I'm sorry. Was interrupted. How many units?
No questions, please. No questions from the audience?
That's what I was told. That's about.
Non-received.
Right? So, that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Pardon me, I'm sorry to interrupt. One of the residents had their power poured out in the back. Will you give me just a minute?
Sure we can.
I'm not your sound guy, but I'll try to help adjust the system
Yes,
for you.
go ahead.
Please stand by.
Where's the
Monica never had this problem.
Check one, check two. Please give me just a minute. Again, I'm not your sound guy, I'm just trying to help you.
Didn't we talk about this years ago? No, but this thing with the wires. Never worked well.
Could you guys tell me if you hear anything coming out of the clip?
Check one. Check two.
Hello.
Yeah, that's working.
Test.
Oh my God. That's working good now. Oh, now the light is on again.
One more time.
Testing.
That's okay.
Testing. This has got to be accepted. This can't be unfair.
Thank you.
please.
I think it was all right. It's hard to tell.
We're going to start the round of questioning, starting with Barbara for 2 minutes if she wants to speak, go around the table clockwise.
Thank you for speaking. I really don't have much to say other than to just confirm for everybody that this board has approved all the money that has been needed to move forward with Appleview, both on an appeal front of the 2011 case as well as the trial of the 2013, including a summary judgment motion. And it's been more money probably in 1 year than any other prior board has approved.
Thank you for speaking. This board has had a lot of challenges, and homeowners are throwing around the word corruption very easily and fitting it towards direct people, I believe. So I'm going to let you in on some of the corruption, potential corruption that this board has had to address, in the sense of Matthew and I approved a motion to open up the bidding process so that we wouldn't have the same vendors coming. And for your spa hallways, it was supposed to go through that project because painting the hallways is a generic job. But there's 2 little companies in the mall that have very similar names, and they were given that job. And if you walk down the spa hallway, I wonder if it takes 400 gallons of paint to paint that hallway. I'll ask you that question. Then, on top of that, I want, if you're interested, go to Tower 3, start at floor 1, and walk up to the 20th floor. And tell me if you think that all the wall coverings are smooth and painted, and the ceilings are smooth and painted, because I have a $1,000 invoice, a $2,000 invoice, a $1,500 invoice, a $1,500 invoice, a $1,500. I can keep going all the way up to the 20th floor, approved by somebody that's not here anymore, but these were all under the threshold, and why the board wasn't informed and that job wasn't considered one job that needed to have a certain amount of money. I mean, these are reasons why some people may lose their job. But, you know,
Where's the report?
I'm just saying that.
This has nothing to do with what the...
Oh, no, this has everything to do with the ethics.
No questions.
Ethics were drawn. The line was put that certain people on the board are unethical. So I'm just pointing out that there are a lot of unethical things that I've seen since I've been on the board. And I'm just giving the homeowners the transparency that maybe they wanted to see or hear about.
Keep going, Joe. We know you're honest. Keep digging.
Thank you.
I guess.
I want to thank the speaker, but I would like, there was something has been mentioned here about conflict of interest. I don't know how come, how that the voting for Appleview was confidential. How some people they come to know that who has voted for what. None of you knows who on the board has voted for Appleview, who has voted for it, who was against it. But all I can tell you, I know that there is a leak on the board. And I know that in the previous meeting on Saturday, one of the board members basically disclosed his vote, which shouldn't have been because that was confidential. But I can assure you that when you are talking about conflict of interest, you don't know how people they have voted. I would be gladly to let you know if it wasn't confidential. So I don't think it's right to accuse people of something that they haven't done. However, we are all entitled to our vote. And remember, each of us, we are representing our own people, our own power, people that they have voted for us. And since last Saturday, group of at least 20 homeowners, they have approached me and they have told me why the opposite view hasn't been covered in that presentation. And I have to let you know that we asked that presentation to cover that, but I don't know, for some reason, they failed to cover the opposite point of view.
Explain, please. Explain,
It's a safety issue.
I wanted to thank the original speaker, gave a good perspective on the safety of that project. I also want to apologize. I wasn't aware that Monica was going to be here to do the sound. I thought that was doing a setup when our speaker, homeowner speaking is pretty rude. And I think, I wasn't aware that Monica wasn't going to do the sound, so I'm on the board, I don't understand what the change was about.
That's because they don't tell
I think this is endemic of a lot of changes that are happening here. We're making changes just for sake of change, but it actually will get a crappier result. I want to mention the polling. Our legal team advised us against doing that, and I find it's ironic that we want to go against our legal advice to poll homeowners, which I do respect everybody that pays maintenance and things like that, but we don't poll them on anything else. Nothing. No, not one poll. So we want to do something that our legal says don't do. So I think that's that's weird. And then I want to get back to conflict of interest that Sohaila mentioned. We get a lot of speaking out of both sides of our mouth on this board. When the board talked about looking into our election process, now I didn't want to spend any money on that, but I thought that, hey, why don't we just look into it, see if we have any issues, resolve them for the next election. Barbara Droshoff's father is the head of the election committee, and Joe is his son-in-law, and yet they still voted against doing that. There's a conflict of interest. We're talking about getting good pricing on these. We're selling antenna lease for 99 years and only getting one bid. That's all we got. Both sides of the mountain.
How obvious can people be?
I got meetings.
I want to thank the owner for coming out and thank all the owners that have come out in the past.
How much are we paying for this?
I don't know.
Yes. Hello.
The board, I don't know. I'm a board member and I don't know. And like Matthew, I didn't realize that everything was changing tonight either. But yes, I do want to thank the homeowner and for speaking out about Apple View. I do agree that we need to continue the litigation and to make sure that we continue to fight this and to ensure safety of owners and our property. And I just want to say, I'm not going to go very long here, but I know that there were things brought up about, a bidding process that was open, but unfortunately, we've had extremely large expenses and deals that are in the works. Just like Matthew said, we've got one proposal for this rooftop, right? And there are other things that are going on, where only one vendor apparently was consulted, and those are some of the things I will ask about later on. But thanks again for coming.
I thank resident speaker for his comments and actually facts which we have to verify. And I agree that your comments were appropriate, and the board, I hope that the board will take all the measures to see and investigate what it is.
Can't hear you.
I also want to thank Bob Barmack for stepping up and showing his public support for Apple View. Thank you very much. I have no problem saying I have always supported the fight against Appleview because of the safety factors and all of the exclusions they want from zoning. I wonder why other directors don't want to speak out and say what their views are. When I hear people asking for opposing views, even directors, I don't know how anybody could say that, because it was all there in the trial briefs. What is there to say that there's an opposite view? And I guess people who want an opposing view have not read the trial briefs and are not very well versed.
Thanks, Bob. Just a point of clarification. If anything, I think that the board organized and helped the land use committee organize a meeting for unit owners for the purpose of information, so more people are aware of what Appleview is all about. That's all I have to say.
We're now going to have our next speaker.
Just test this for a second. Okay, I have my own timer. Okay, dear fellow Galaxy residents, my name is Erwin Maas. Most people probably don't know me since, like most residents here, I live a busy life and therefore appreciate some peace and privacy at the place I call home. I admit I previously have not been involved in Galaxy politics. I personally did not know Jude, and until last week Saturday I had not really informed myself about the Appleview project. However, today I'm standing before you on behalf of more than 170 residents that signed a petition to find out more about the highly questionable course of action in regards to the dismissal and non-dismissal of some members of our staff. Today I'm standing before you on behalf of a rapidly growing group of owners that are concerned, shocked and frankly appalled by the actions and inactions of our board and management. I'm standing before you now as I simply cannot keep quiet any longer. Where to begin? In the last few months, we have seen such outrageous treatment of people, decision-making, denial, and cover-up that the 7 minutes I'm allowed to speak here won't be sufficient to address it all. Therefore, an uncut version of this address will be sent to everyone. Lately, we're increasingly witnessing our management and spa staff respond to owners' concerns with, "Would you like me to call security to escort you out?" They are following the board president's example of forcefully removing a speaker raising concerns about the Appleview project at the open board meeting in June. It seems to have become the go-to response for any question and concern that is raised, seemingly trying to intimidate residents and shut down any form of open communication. Has the Galaxy become a police state where all concerns, critiques, and calls for honest answers are ignored, silenced, and forcefully shut down? We've been introduced to a disclaimer owners need to sign in order to speak at this meeting that seems longer than the amount of time owners get to speak. It also includes the curious line, "I choose to speak at my own risk." I wonder, since when did it become a personal risk to speak freely at an open board meeting? Our board majority and management all too often use the threat of litigation, and most questions are rebuffed with, "We're not allowed to say anything." Why do you shield with litigation? So to stifle transparency. What do you have to hide? We've witnessed a board member in an agitated state shout at owners and residents at last week's Appleview meeting that we had no right to be so angry or to question their intentions and that respect was called for. It was this same board member who 2 board meetings ago, while rolling her eyes on camera, said, I quote, "She's crazy," about an owner that shared her concerns about the Appleview project. How's that for respect? At the same Appleview meeting, other directors called for more owners' involvement and invited residents to give their perspectives, and they even called for a poll on Appleview. However, when owners spoke up and opposed their views, these members of our board majority walked out of the spa lounge while being spoken to have an impromptu secret meeting in the activity room next door. What is that about? We've seen a ridiculous motion being passed regarding the dismissal of Jude Odenthal. The fact that our board secretary hasn't even followed up on this motion by contacting Jude only shows the disingenuous nature of that motion. Meanwhile, owners are still waiting for any response from the matter. We really need to address the enormous hypocrisy of it all, since we now know that our board majority first kept it a secret and then knowingly voted to keep a GM with an unlawful background. Since she is still here, we have yet to hear an intelligent rationale for that decision. We also saw a motion denied by the board majority for request to a complete and impartial investigation of the alleged election fraud by our Galaxy Elections chairman and Gothenburg mayor. Having a mayor administer the election of a board that governs the majority of his constituents pretty much would be enough to raise some eyebrows. But red flags really should be raised when two of his relatives do not recuse themselves from a vote on a motion that calls for an inquiry into the possible illicit actions of their family member. Incredibly, neither them nor the board president, who may have benefited, recused themselves. No unethical behavior or conflict of interest there, you think? Let's assume that all the board members chose to be on this board, and let's assume that they have been elected fairly. Why are they so afraid of a complete and impartial investigation to eliminate any chance of fraud? At the explosive Appleview meeting, pun intended, words and actions by some of our board members have raised very serious concerns. Just the mere fact that some directors have shown doubts about opposing Appleview shocked residents and calls to question these directors' competence in representing our safety. I urge everyone to see the excellent presentation on Appleview by the committee headed by Jeremy and Siad. After seeing the presentation and hearing all the industry experts, one truly wonders how anyone in their right mind can consider building even as much as a pop-up tent so close to the gas pipeline, let alone an entire apartment complex. All its concerns about Appleview seem to be waved away by our board majority or actively disregarded. Either way, it raises serious concerns about their motives. Our facilities manager and general manager are boasting that employee morale has never been better. We all know that unfortunately the opposite rings true. Never before have we seen such blatant disrespect for our valued staff with threats, firings, and regular incidents, nor have we seen such turnover with people quitting or being fired and rules changing virtually daily. We are losing the real good people here every day. Jerry points fingers at Judy, Judy points fingers at Jerry, the board majority seems to blame no one. We hold all of you accountable. If you want to show true leadership, let's throw away tonight's agenda and address these grave concerns at hand. Let's have an open and honest communication while everybody is here, instead of hiding behind closed doors, fake motions, and backdated disingenuous letters in the name of transparency. God knows we have bigger fish to fry than the color of our carpeting, the amendment to SPA rules, or the replacement of the lower pool stairs. The trust in our board's majority and management has been lost. Our board beats its own drum about rooting out corruption and preaches transparency, yet never before have we seen so many concerns about blatant conflicts of interest and so much outrage about unethical behavior and bad decision-making affecting our finances, our lives, and our safety. My mother used to say, if it smells funny, don't eat it. What has happened and what is happening under our current board and management does not just smell funny anymore, it has started to stink, and we no longer want to eat it.
Now we're going to start. Board members' comments. We're going to start with Paul for 2 minutes.
I'm glad that we have such an enthusiastic crowd in here. I'm very serious about it. And I do hope that it's going to carry for the next election. So there is not going to be 1 or 2 candidates per tower that really are willing to put time into it. No, that's by all means. Now, since Appleview was touched again, let me make clarification as I understand it. There was never a question about anything other than, is there enough interest of participation, financial participation, by all unit owners or majority unit owners to keep funding it, being it $5 a day or $500 a day. That was the only intent of the conversation that took place. Thank you.
What do you think now?
I haven't changed my mind. I know exactly what I think.
Well,
Resign.
tell us.
I am in full support
Price
of
is too high.
No question.
Yeah. I'm in full support of continuing doing the right thing with all of you. I think that a lot was accomplished, and I have met with Siad and Jeremy, and I think that a lot was accomplished throughout the time. And if really is important, I was one of the main drivers to get that exposure. Thanks.
This is a reminder, this could be the officers' comments and members' comments, not response to on the incident. Richard?
Thank you, Erwin, for speaking up. It was a great speech, and I can only say one word: wow. It was terrific.
I think your comments are absolutely appropriate, and there are a number of board members that agree with you. I'm one of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank Erwin for coming up and for expressing your views. And just like Matthew, I want to say that I am also one of the folks that are that's outraged about all of this. And I know a lot of owners share these sentiments, and I'm glad that people are out and having their voices heard. It makes a difference.
Thank you, Nancy.
I'll keep this short. I wanted to thank you tremendously for coming up. A lot of those points were spot on. Thanks.
Regarding the motion, I made the motion, and if you remember, I said when the report is ready, and if you is prepared to sign a document that is not going to sue the Galaxy, we're going to release the report. The report has not been ready yet. That is why we don't have the report, and nobody has contacted the Jew. All I can say is, I'm not, I wish people before they come and speak here, they really get their facts together and talk about
Give us facts! Give us facts!
What was unfactual about what I said? What was unfactual? You responded to me.
Islamic is not going to
I
work.
believe what she said.
I do not respond to Islamic. That's it. If you have got any fact, I accept it.
I mean, Islamic other people.
But I'm sorry, I do not respond to Islamic.
You're having to slander other people.
Yes.
Wait for the report.
No words, actions.
Gentlemen, ladies in the audience, remember, give the opportunity to each person to speak as we gave speakers the courtesy of listening to them.
So, thank you for speaking. And I'll say again, there were questions about Judy's ethics, there were questions about former employees' ethics, and Judy has been trying to get a grant here for $1 million. She's been up front with the board.
What did it show some class?
No.
Show some class.
Do you have the $1 million? Do you have the $1 million?
Would you please just show some respect to the speaker and just listen to what's been said?
Then show
without commenting.
Show respect to us then too.
So at this point in time, no, the money is not here and no projects have been tagged to that money. So the board isn't doing anything reckless with that money. However, a former employee here did get us a grant.
Show us the report. Show some class and dignity.
Sounds like you really want to hear anything.
Let the man
So-
speak.
So a former employee here went on his own without board approval to get a grant for $18,000, which just below 18, which is the minimal threshold around where the government won't actually look and verify the work was performed. The work order for that grant was again approved by one of the two small companies that happen to house themselves in the mall because they seem to get quite a bit of business here. The work was not performed.
Please, let the guy talk. It's a valid point. It's valid.
Let's read it here.
Listen to every fuck here. I'm first time here. I'm trying to understand each one of them. Me too. Or we're gonna stop this shit right now. Either we're gonna let every person speak, or we're gonna close it right now.
For what?
Very simple. Let every person speak. Very simple. Very simple. Each person has a right to speak.
But he's back here.
Close it down. Fairness for everyone. We are facing
Are we allowed to talk about the investigation now that Joe was talking about?
People want to hear, people want transparency, people want to understand what's going on, but you don't want me to speak.
This is Carl Ford.
You're related to the mayor, resign.
Each of you could say whatever you
You
want.
don't even realize that the guy
No
is saving
restriction
your
on
money.
it. So
You don't even realize that he's saving your money. This guy is saving your money.
please, this is not a debate, just let the speakers finish.
So, to be clear, this was not approved by the board was not aware of this, and somebody anonymously called the state to say that the Galaxy was double dipping on the Clean Energy Fund, and we almost lost the potential of getting the $1 million grant. So, no, there is a lot of things going on, and the board is looking at a lot of things.
How is it possible that someone can do that?
And where were you when all this happened? You should have been overseas, imagine.
Please be quiet, let the speakers speak.
Who's watching the money?
No money around the board here.
Please,
Nobody's watching the money. $15,000.
Okay, a few things. First, a few people, including directors, have now mentioned the proposed investigation into the election committee. The homeowners, I understand, they're because they are not informed and not privy to the legal bills here, but every director receives a copy of the legal invoices, and if they had looked at them, they would see that everything that the election committee did was vetted and approved by legal counsel before it was done. So what they want to do is again, pay the same legal firm to review what they already approved. Okay, but not all the directors review the materials that they receive. Second of all, the Appleview meeting. Certain directors, and not all directors bothered to show up, but we showed up to show respect and support for the committee, and at least 2 of them were attacked. And I'm sorry, it wasn't a board meeting. I showed up to show support, but I'm not required to be there. And if I walk out to speak with someone and come back into the room, there's nothing wrong with that. And I resent